This is lecture 5 on social psychology. This lecture is about research process, research designs and methods. In the last lecture, we talked about 6 steps involved in social psychological research. These 6 steps were developing a research question and review of literature. The second was developing a research theory and hypothesis. Third was variable selection and operationally defining them. Fourth step was choosing a research design. Fifth were evaluating the ethics that were involved in conducting that particular research. And sixth was collection of data. In collection of data, we had talked about 2 kinds of sampling techniques. One was probability sampling and the other was non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, we talked about systematic random, and then we talked about random technique. The third one that we discussed was cluster sampling technique, and the fourth was stratified sampling. And the last was multi-stage sampling strategy. Among all of these strategies, which are included in probability sampling technique, systematic random, simple random, and stratified sampling are considered the best ones because they have the equal opportunity for each and every individual to be selected in the sample. The rest of the 2 categories, that were cluster sampling and multi-stage sampling, they are difficult to generalize on the basis of the conclusion. So when a researcher uses these kind of techniques, although he is using probability sampling, which is considered the best method of collecting any sample, still that person should be cautious while that person will be generalizing on the basis of the outcome of the research. Today we will start by discussing non-probability sampling techniques. One of the non-probability sampling technique is purposive sampling. In purposive sampling, we collect data according to the predetermined and pre-selected characteristics of the people who will be contributing in that research. For example, if we need 70 women and 30 men in our sample, then we will decide that beforehand, and then we will take a purposive sample of 70 women and 30 men. And the same applies to other classes or other variables of importance. For example, if we want 40 people from high social class, 30 people from low social class, and the rest from middle class, then we will be taking participants having these characteristics. This sampling is non-probability sampling technique, and non-probability sampling technique mean that we cannot guarantee that each and every member of that particular population will have an equal chance of being included in the sample. So while a researcher uses any of these techniques, he should be very cautious that when he is generalizing and making conclusion about whole of the population which are based only on that sample, he should be very careful. The second non-probability sampling technique is accidental sampling. Accidental sampling is usually based on convenience and willingness of the participants, and usually used in these kind of researches when people want to take viewpoint of people. For example, in shopping malls, while researcher can stand at the end of a street and whoever is passing by, he could request that whether that person would like to participate in that research and not. You would have encountered such kind of research in your life. कभी कभार होता है कि हम कहीं पर सड़क पर खड़े होते हैं और कोई ये कहता है कि प्लीज आपके पास 2 मिनट होंगे तो ये जरा सर्वे या फिल कर दें या मेरे किसी सवाल का जवाब दे दें. Generalization from this kind of research and collection of data is also doubtful. And then the third one is convenience sampling. This is more or less accidental sampling, लेकिन usually इसमें ये होता है कि whatever people, whether they are relatives, acquaintance, friends, whoever is available, we can include them in our sample. और इसके बारे में भी वही बात कही जा सकती है जो तमाम नॉन प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक्स के बारे में कही जाती है कि we should not be very optimistic while we are concluding on the basis of sampling data. The fourth one is call-in surveys. ये ज़्यादातर इस तरह के डेटा कलेक्शन में यूज़ होते हैं जिस तरह से टीवी शोज़ हैं, रेडियो शोज़ हैं और उसमें आप लोगों को कहते हैं कि आप एक पर्टिकुलर इशू, कई दफ़ा आपने नोट किया होगा कि स्क्रीन पर आ जाता है कि ये इलेक्शन जो हैं वो अब असम्बलियां टूट जानी चाहिए, इलेक्शन हो जाने चाहिए या नहीं, और अगर आप इसके हक में हैं या नहीं भी हक में तो प्लीज कॉल ऑन दिस नंबर। तो इस तरह के कॉल इन सर्वेज होते हैं। एक स्टडी हुई थी 1994 में जो क्रॉसन ने की थी। क्रॉसन used a data that was about a question that was asked in USA in some TV show, and that question was UN headquarters should stay in USA or not. और जो कॉल इन सर्वे में लोगों ने जवाबात दिए वो बहुत सारे लोग थे जिन्होंने टेलीफोन कॉल्स की। दैट वाज एक्चुअली 186,000 people, and 67%, who was actually a great majority, they replied that UN headquarters should stay out of USA. लेकिन जब इसी तरह का रैंडम मेल सर्वे किया गया, रैंडम जिसको हम पहले डिफाइन कर चुके हैं कि आप रैंडमली सिलेक्ट करते हैं पार्टिसिपेंट्स को। सो रैंडम sampling technique is a probability sampling when every and each member has equal chance of being included in the study. तो रैंडम सैम्पलिंग के जरिए जब ये इसी तरह का सर्वे किया गया तो ग्रेट मेजॉरिटी gave entirely opposite result, entirely opposite answer, and 72% said that UN headquarters should stay in the USA. So you can see कि कितना difference जो है वो आ सकता है एक रिजल्ट के बारे में अगर हम डिफरेंट सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक्स यूज करते हैं। Although that was a massive majority that replied in call-in surveys to TV shows, that was, I repeat again, that was 186,000 people, but the results were entirely different from each other. So one must be very careful when they are drawing conclusions on the basis of non-probability sampling, or perhaps they should not be very optimistic that on the basis of this sample we can draw so and so conclusion, and that applies to a whole population. When we collect data, then the data can be of two kinds. One kind is qualitative and the other is quantitative. Qualitative data exists non-numeric form. Non-numeric form क्या हो सकती है? It could be narrations by subjects, like आप October 2005 में पाकिस्तान में जो अर्थक्वेक हुआ उसके बारे में आप लोगों से अगर ये पूछें कि जो लोग वहाँ पर मौजूद थे, who were the actually survivors, victims, अगर आप उनसे पूछें what did you feel, can you describe that, या इसी तरह से कोई और हादसा, कोई एक्सीडेंट हुआ हो किसी सड़क पर और आप जो लोग वहाँ पर मौजूद थे आप उनसे कहें कि आप अपनी फीलिंग्स को डिस्क्राइब करें। And whatever the narratives which are explained or which are stated by the respondents, that could serve as a qualitative data. Similarly, words spoken by people, they could also serve as qualitative data. Quantitative data is numerical. Numerical जैसे कि achievement tests पर score जो लिया जाए वो quantitative data होगा। IQ test पर score लिया जाए, that will be quantitative data. So in research, both kind of data is enormously used. Quantitative data भी बहुत ज़्यादा यूज़ होता है because whenever we are using questionnaires, standardized questionnaires हैं या हम खुद बनाते हैं questionnaires, तो usually उसका एक score जो है वो आप generate करते हैं और फिर आप बहुत सारी जो statistics है that actually can be applied on quantitative data, and it is difficult to apply statistics on qualitative data. और अगर आपने statistics लगानी ही हो तो qualitative data को पहले कई दफ़ा कोडिंग की जाती है, उसको कोई numbers assign किए जाते हैं और फिर statistics लगाई जाती है। But the thing is not that कि statistics लगानी लाजमी है, and statistics does not determine the validity of our research, क्योंकि qualitative data in fact can be very rich, and there are certain investigations when qualitative data is the only data that can reply to your questions. For example, अगर आपने in-depth feelings किसी की जाननी है, you want to know some phenomena in greater depth, in real sense, then qualitative data is very beneficial. While we are collecting data from some sample, there are different techniques that are used for collection of data. What are these techniques? Number one is self-reports. Usually people's attitudes, motives, emotions and beliefs are obtained through these self-reports. और self-reports में आमतौर पर लोगों से पूछा जाता है, सवालात पूछे जाते हैं that they should describe their feelings on a one particular issue, कोई भी एक उनके attitudes लिए जा सकते हैं about some phenomena, some issue or whatever. Validity of self-reports is usually questioned because it totally relies on the responses of the person and people are very inclined to give socially desirable responses. ये भी बहुत सारी studies ने prove किया है कि normally we have a tendency to give those kind of responses which we understand that in society they are appreciated. That is why sometimes researchers prefer direct observation technique. In direct observation, you would have a check on that kind of self-report biases. अब जो direct observation है, उसमें ये फायदा होता है कि whenever you are observing something, it is very real, it is accurate, and it is a reflection of the actual situation. So it is very much alive. Self-reports में ये problem होती है, like I said before, कि people can give socially desirable responses. And sometimes you cannot get true picture from self-reports. एक मिसाल लेते हैं, pro-social behavior, helping behavior. अगर आप लोगों से ये सवाल पूछें questionnaires में कि आप किसी की help करना पसंद करेंगे या फिर different हवाले से, different तरीके से ये सवाल पूछें कि if there is some accident and you are witness of that accident on the road, will you take that person to hospital if someone is injured? So probably everybody would say yes, I would, because that behavior is very much appreciated in society and we all know that. Lekin what happened in real circumstances is the true picture. If a researcher is standing on a place, on a road, और उस वक्त कोई accident होता है और वो उस वक्त देखता है कि there are maybe hundreds of people are going and nobody stops for help. So in that way, true picture of a phenomena can be obtained through direct observation. The third way of collecting data is archival information. Archival information are accumulated records which are already present. They could be anything which is already available. They could be documents, they could be newspapers, films, they could be some TV program, they could be court records, they could be census data, government documents, or anything which is available and it either in a documents form or anything else. So archival information is also very rich about knowing about the opinion, beliefs, interests of a particular culture. तो cultural studies में बहुत ज़्यादा archival research use होती है. Similarly, case history अगर किसी की compile करनी है about one particular person, you want to write down something, then it's a very rich source of data कि आप उस शख्स के बारे में जो भी written information, चाहे उसकी teachers की report है, अगर वो किसी hospital में admit हुआ है तो doctors की report है, and then if people have written about him in other books, for example, तो वो भी उसमें से भी आप newspaper में उसके बारे में कोई article है, so you can get record from different sources. But it should be valuable to mention here that all these techniques are not mutually exclusive. यानी ये नहीं है कि आप एक technique use करें तो सिर्फ वही technique use कर सकते हैं. In one lecture, I had mentioned that social psychology is different from other disciplines like physics and chemistry, that we have a compilation of data from different sources. और यही उसकी richness का bias है कि you can get data from multiple sources और उससे जो information आती है that could be very comprehensive either about an event or some person. So that was the sixth step in the process of research. The seventh step is analyzing data and then re-evaluate the theory. Analyzing data, in fact, requires a lot of understanding of statistics, and then in current years, it requires a lot of understanding of computer softwares also, जो कि आपके data को analyze कर दें. और ये काम जो है अब बहुत थोड़े वक्त में हो जाता है पहले की निस्बत. Different kinds of statistics are used according to different types of data, or different kinds of research questions, or different kinds of hypotheses. So आपकी hypothesis, आपके research questions, they determine that what kind of statistics you will be using. Basically, there is two kinds of statistics. One is descriptive and the other is inferential statistics. So let's see what is the difference between both of them. Descriptive statistics merely summarize and describe the behavior or characteristics of a particular sample of participants in a study. So basically the function of descriptive statistics, as the name implies, is description, describing, just classifying, describing, or nothing more than that. But this still is a very important function, because if you do not describe a data, then you cannot move forward. The next statistics, which is very much used but after descriptive statistics, is inferential statistics. Inferential statistics, जैसा कि नाम से ज़ाहिर है, making inferences, making predictions. Inferential statistics move beyond mere description to make inferences about the large population from which the sample was drawn. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि पहले तो आपको descriptive statistics ही लगानी पड़ेगी, और उस descriptive statistics के बाद आप inferential statistics लगाते हैं. There are different kinds of descriptive and inferential statistics. Inferential statistics ये भी हो सकती है कि you may be looking at the differences between things and then you will be talking about the significance of that result. And then another question can be relationship between different events, and then you look at the significance and chance error about that particular conclusion. So inferential statistics में हम ये करते हैं कि हम sample से, जैसे पहले जिक्र हुआ कि sample से हम predict करते हैं about, generalize करते हैं about whole population. लेकिन उसमें एक चीज़ बड़ी important है, और वो ये कि कुछ results जो हैं वो तो by chance भी आ सकते हैं. So statistics takes care of that issue. कि we determine that results could be obtainable by chance or not, or how much is the probability that results will be obtained by chance. So that determines the significance of the findings. So if we say that these results are statistically significantly different or correlated, it means कि chance error से हटकर जितना chance से difference या relationship possible थी, ये उससे ज़्यादा है. और ये analysis of data जो है, this is a very important step because it determines the validity of a theory. Remember in the last lecture we discussed about the predictive value of a theory. कि हम जब टेस्ट करते हैं hypothesis को, तो हमें ये पता चलता है कि that particular theory was valid or not. तो उसकी validity कैसे पता चलेगी? उसकी validity पता चलेगी जब research conduct कर लेंगे. और जब research conduct करेंगे तो analysis of data will determine whether that theory was valid or not. और अगर ये theory साबित ना हो, तो what we will have to do? We will have to re-evaluate our theory. और बहुत सारी रिसर्चेस, जैसे मैंने पहले भी कहा था, कि कंडक्ट की जाती हैं टू टेस्ट वन थ्योरी. एक दफ़ा एक रिसर्च करने से एक थ्योरी जो है वो वैलिड, उसकी वैलिडिटी एस्टैब्लिश नहीं हो जाती. फॉर एग्जांपल, वन रिसर्च आई हैड मेंशन्ड बिफोर दैट वाज होवलैंड स्टडी, एंड होवलैंड hypothesized that economic frustration in USA would lead to lynching or killing of black people, and this was proved right. Normally हम ये नहीं कहते थे it was proved right, हम ये कहते हैं कि we can support this hypothesis. और जब आपकी hypothesis जो है वो support हो जाती है, तो then it gives some indication to the validity of the theory. और अगर ये साबित ना हो, तो फिर आप अपनी theory को reconsider करते हैं. The eighth and last step in research process is reporting the results. अब जब आप report करते हैं results, तो there are three ways to disseminate that knowledge. आप कैसे जो है वो इसको लोगों को बताते हैं. It's in fact a very important step, क्योंकि अगर आप अपनी research के बारे में लोगों को नहीं बताएंगे, तो फिर ये knowledge spread कैसे होगी. So it is very important कि you communicate about your results to the scientific community. What are the ways that can be used to disseminate that information to a scientific community? First one is that you publish article in scientific journals, and this is the most popular one. Or it is very essential कि आप अपनी research जो है, you should share it with rest of the scientific community. और उसका फ़ायदा क्या होगा कि दूसरे लोगों को आपकी रिसर्च के बारे में पता चलेगा। जिस तरह से जब आपने रिसर्च की थी, यू कंसल्टेड अदर रिसर्चेस, तो अब लोग उस इश्यू पे रिसर्च करना चाहेंगे तो दे विल कंसल्ट योर रिसर्च। एंड आई वुड से दैट दिस इज द ड्यूटी ऑफ द रिसर्चर कि वो रिसर्च कंडक्ट करने के बाद जो फाइंडिंग्स हैं वो अपने तक महदूद ना रखे, बल्कि वो शेयर करे साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी के साथ। द सेकेंड वे टू रिपोर्ट द रिजल्ट्स इज मेकिंग प्रेजेंटेशंस एट प्रोफेशनल मीटिंग्स। ये प्रोफेशनल मीटिंग्स प्रोफेशनल बॉडीज की होती हैं, जैसे कि एक द बिगेस्ट साइंटिफिक बॉडी इन साइकोलॉजी इज अमेरिकन साइकोलॉजिकल एसोसिएशन फोरम, और उसके अलावा जो है वो नेशनल लेवल पर होती हैं, हर मुल्क में कॉन्फ्रेंसेस होती हैं, मीटिंग्स होती हैं, इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे भी होती हैं, एंड पीपल दे डू शेयर देयर रिसर्च फाइंडिंग्स विद पीपल, with the rest of the colleagues. And the third one is that you personally inform other researchers कि आप खुद correspondence के जरिए जब उनसे आपकी मुलाकात होती है, when you give lectures to your postgraduate students, when you talk with your colleagues, then you tell about your research. But the first two ones, and especially the first one, is the most acceptable and appreciable way to communicate the findings of your research to scientific community and to your colleagues. Another question is that you do not write your research. Did it really exist? ये पहला step था पिछले procedure का, कि writing your research, communicating your results to the rest of the community. तो अगर आप अपनी रिसर्च राइट नहीं करते तो हाउ वुड अदर पीपल नो दैट समबॉडी कंडक्टेड रिसर्च ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर इशू एंड सम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फाइंडिंग वाज ऑब्टेन्ड? सो इफ द रिसर्च वाज नॉट रिटन, देयर इज नॉट मच एविडेंस दैट इट इज एग्जिस्टेड. समटाइम ये होता है कि लोग थीसिस लिखते हैं, थीसिस सुपरवाइज करते हैं, और फिर वो थीसिस जो है वो लाइब्रेरीज में पड़े रहते हैं. व्हेन अ थीसिस इज इन लाइब्रेरी, यूजुअली इट डजंट रीच टू साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी, या उसका इतना चांस नहीं होता कि सब लोगों को पता चले कि ये रिसर्च जो है वो फलां शख्स ने लिखी है. तो द बेस्ट वे इज इट शुड बी रिटन एंड पब्लिश्ड. एक जो थीसिस लाइब्रेरी में रखा हुआ है, दैट इज नॉट कॉल्ड अ पब्लिश्ड रिसर्च. ये टाइप तो हुई है और उसको एक बुक फॉर्म में भी लिखा जा चुका होता है, लेकिन वो पब्लिश रिसर्च शुमार नहीं होती. So when you write a research, there are different steps involved. And what are these steps? Number one is the title of that research. Title should ideally have both independent and dependent variable in that. And although there is not some very particular limit to the length of the title, but according to APA, that is American Psychological Association, the word limit should be between 10 to 12 words are sufficient for a title. और उसको ब्रीफ करने का क्या तरीका है कि आप इस तरह के वर्ड्स शामिल ना करें जो जिनका कोई ख़ास मकसद ना हो, जिनसे कोई ख़ास फ़ायदा ना होता हो, और जो स्टडी को कंट्रीब्यूट ना करते हो. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ़ यू से द इन्वेस्टिगेशन ऑफ अचीवमेंट मोटिवेशन इन अंडरग्रेजुएट स्टूडेंट्स, so the investigation of is not fulfilling any purpose because every research is in fact an investigation. तो आप ये कह सकते हैं कि achievement motivation in undergraduate students. दूसरी जो चीज है वो टाइटल के बारे में ये है कि it should be, one thing was that it should be brief, then the other thing is it should be describing exactly what is study about. तो जो मेन पर्पस है स्टडी का वो उसमें रिफ्लेक्ट होना चाहिए. द सेकेंड पार्ट ऑफ अ रिसर्च आर्टिकल व्हेन इट इज रिटन इज ऑथर्स एंड देयर एफिलिएशंस, यानी ऑथर का नाम. अगर इफ इट इज मोर देन वन ऑथर तो फिर दोनों का नाम या तीनों का नाम एंड सो ऑन, और उनकी एफिलिएशन विद द इंस्टीट्यूशन. यूजुअली ये होता है कि पीपल हैव कंडक्टेड रिसर्च एट वन प्लेस एंड देन दे लीव वन इंस्टीट्यूशन एंड दे मूव ऑन टू other institutions, so what shall be done? तो आमतौर पे जो करंट एफिलिएशन है इंस्टीट्यूशन की वो लिखनी चाहिए, और अगर साथ उसके दूसरी एफिलिएशन लिखी जा सकती है, लेकिन आमतौर पे करंट एफिलिएशन लिखनी चाहिए. और अगर दो से ज्यादा एफिलिएशंस हो, द पर्सन हैज मूव्ड टू 3 places, then usually it is avoided and 2 affiliations can be mentioned. Then comes the most crucial part of a research paper, that is abstract. Abstract should be very comprehensive and very informative, and it should be a clear snapshot of the study, because once it is published in any database, it's going to live a very long life, because that is maybe the only part that most of the people read and leave the rest of the article. तो इसी से लोगों को इंटरेस्ट उसमें पैदा होता है. अगर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट उनकी रिसर्च जो वो करना चाहते हैं उसके मुताबिक है, या एब्स्ट्रैक्ट जो है वो उनके रिसर्च इंटरेस्ट के मुताबिक है, तो फिर वो उसको पढ़ने के बाद आर्टिकल पढ़ते हैं, वरना एब्स्ट्रैक्ट के बाद छोड़ देते हैं. तो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट जो है यूजुअली इट शुड हैव नो एब्रीविएशंस. उसमें जो अगर टेस्टों के नाम हैं तो आप टेस्ट जो भी यूज हुए हैं उनके फुल नेम्स दें. यूजुअली इट इज रिकमेंडेड दैट यू आल्सो गिव इन ब्रैकेट्स देयर ऑथर्स नेम्स and you describe all the elements of the research. और elements of the research क्या हैं? How that research was conducted, why that research was conducted, and then what are the results, what methodology was used, and what do you conclude, and what are the implications of the research. ये 3-4 elements जो हैं वो इस abstract में शामिल होने चाहिए. And the next part of a research article is introduction. Introduction doesn't normally need a heading, क्योंकि the placing of introduction at one particular place in the article determines its position. इसकी जो placing है उससे पता चलता है कि this is the introduction. तो अगर आप इसके ऊपर introduction नहीं भी लिखते, its placing determine कि what part is this. In introduction you mention previous researches, and because you have to build your research on the basis of the previous research that has been conducted so far. और आप बाकी researches जो कि बहुत relevant हैं आपकी research के साथ आप उनको mention करते हैं, and by the end you come to your own research कि why you are conducting that research, whether there were some inconsistencies in the previous literature, whether there was something additional which you wanted to investigate, and so on. And usually people describe their hypothesis at the end of introduction. लेकिन ये journal to journal भी कई दफा format different हो सकता है. The next section is method section. Method section is usually divided into 3-4 parts, but it's not essential that they all are given headings. लेकिन जो essential parts हैं method के वो हैं sample, Myers, यानी sample में कौन से लोग थे जिन्होंने participate किया इस रिसर्च में, Myers कौन से आपने टेस्ट या इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स यूज किए, व्हाट मेथोडोलॉजी, हो सकता है आपने कोई टेस्ट यूज ना किए हो, आपने कोई क्वालिटेटिव किस्म की रिसर्च की हो, सो व्हाटएवर आपने जो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स यूज किए हैं या Myers यूज किए हैं उनका जिक्र और उनकी तफसील भी दी जाती है. और उसके बाद जो है वो प्रोसीजर, हाउ डिड यू डू दैट, कि आपने ये सारा काम जो था वो किया कैसे. And then the next section is results section. In results section, you do not interpret anything. You just report the results as you obtained them, as they happened. And usually tables are mentioned here, but tables are usually given at the end of the manuscript when it is submitted. लेकिन उनकी जिक्र यहाँ होता है और आप एक place भी identify करते हैं. Let's say कि table 1, please insert table 1 about here, and so on. The next very important part of a written article is discussion. Discussion is the part where you interpret your findings and you elaborate on previous research also, and you finally come to your research also indicating that what are the similarities and differences between your research and previous research. और research जो है उसमें आप पिछली research का हवाला देते हैं. अगर कोई रिसर्च आपकी जो फाइंडिंग्स हैं पिछली रिसर्च से हटकर हैं तो इसकी क्या वजह है. इफ दे आर कंसिस्टेंट विद प्रीवियस लिटरेचर, देन हाउ डू यू इंटरप्रेट दैट एंड व्हाट डू यू कंक्लूड. एंड देन देयर आर कंक्लूजन्स. ये ब्रीफ सी बिल्कुल आप एंड पर काइंड ऑफ योर कंक्लूजन्स जो आप ड्रॉ करते हैं ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ योर डेटा, आप कुछ लाइंस में इसको मेंशन कर देते हैं. दे शैल बी वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिवली रिटन. उसके बाद रेफरेंसेस, टेबल्स, फिगर्स, अपेंडिसेस एंड फुटनोट्स एंड ऑथर्स नोट. ऑथर्स नोट में आमतौर पे ऑथर की पूरी जो है वो मेन ऑथर और उनका थोड़ा सा तारुफ, वेयर देयर आर वर्किंग, टेलीफोन नंबर्स एंड सो ऑन. टेबल्स और फिगर्स की थोड़ी सी बात करते हैं. टेबल्स और फिगर्स जो हैं दे आर अ वेरी वैल्यूएबल वे ऑफ शोइंग योर डेटा. टेबल्स जो हैं वो आमतौर पर उन हालात में देनी चाहिए जब देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ डेटा टू डिस्प्ले, और फिगर्स शैल बी यूज्ड व्हेन द डेटा इज नॉट दैट एग्जॉस्टिव. बहुत ज्यादा डेटा जो है वो फिगर्स में अच्छा नहीं लगता. फॉर एग्जांपल अगर बार डायग्राम है और उसमें आप कोई अपना डेटा प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं तो लिमिटेड नंबर ऑफ बार्स, इसका मतलब लिमिटेड नंबर ऑफ वेरिएबल्स and their values shall be shown. So this was all about how to write and submit a research article. Now we have finished with research process and its steps, and remember we discussed 8 basic research steps that are involved in conducting social psychology research. Now we move on to the next topic. The next topic is research design. According to Cohen and Holliday, which he said in 1982, that it is almost always very helpful to distinguish between different designs that are either based on assessing correlations or relationships between events and variables, or differences between variables. And what is the reason why we shall be very clear and distinguish whether we are looking at the relationships or we looking at the differences between objects, events, or any happenings. इसकी वजह यह है कि if we decide that beforehand, then it will make the subsequent statistical analysis very straightforward. क्योंकि इसी के मुताबिक whatever are the questions, like questions are looking at the differences between events, or questions are looking at the relationship between different events. तो ये questions in fact determine करते हैं कि what kind of statistics we will be using later on. So there are basically 3 kinds of designs that are used in social psychology research. Number 1 is descriptive investigations. So descriptive kind of designs. What are descriptive designs? They are non-experimental designs which are geared towards describing phenomena. अब अगर आपने सिर्फ एक phenomena को, event को describe करना है, तो like I said before, this decision will help you in selection of subsequent statistical analysis. तो ज़्यादातर आप descriptive statistics ही use करेंगे if you have a question which is actually descriptive investigation. अब descriptive investigation 2 तरह की हो सकती है. जैसा कि पहले जिक्र आया था कि आप जब डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं तो वो क्वालिटेटिव भी होता है और क्वांटिटेटिव भी. तो क्वालिटेटिव इन्वेस्टिगेशन क्या हो सकती है? फॉर एग्जांपल, you are interested in looking at the environment of an intensive care unit. You are interested in looking at the feelings of people about big shopping malls. And a quantitative data can be you are interested in looking at the range of normal body temperature in healthy population, healthy people. The second research designs are focused actually on differences between groups. अब ये differences between groups की जब हम बात करते हैं तो ये 2 तरह के groups में हो सकती हैं. One is independent or unrelated group and the other one are dependent and related groups. So what do we mean by independent and dependent groups? When we say independent or unrelated groups, so basically we mean that these 2 or more groups are different people. So they are unrelated to each other. It means that if we test them, one group is tested, it should not affect the other group in any way. For example, if you are researching on men and women, then they are separate groups. The second one are dependent or related groups. It means if you measure one group, then its rating should affect the second group. And it could be possible in that way if they are same people who are participating in the research. Usually dependent or related group से मुराद ये है कि the same people are tested over some period of time. जैसे कि अगर 1 महीने में आप ये देखना चाह रहे हैं कि you want to see the effect of some learning strategy on performance, तो आपने आज अंडरग्रेजुएट स्टूडेंट्स को एक लर्निंग स्ट्रेटजी दी और उसके बाद आप उनकी परफॉर्मेंस जो है वो चेक की और उसके 1 हफ्ते के बाद आप दोबारा उनको टेस्ट कर रहे हैं. तो यू आर यूजिंग द सेम पीपल टू सी द इफेक्ट ऑफ डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ लर्निंग स्ट्रेटजीज ऑन देयर परफॉर्मेंस. एक और तरीका भी ये भी होता है कि सम टाइम people are matched with each other so much that they are considered nearly equal on several dimensions. जैसे हम age, sex, education level, उनकी social class और उनके previous experiences, इन सब पर matching कर लेते हैं, then we also consider them related groups. The advantage of using same people in one experiment is that one is obvious, reason is very obvious, and that is that you need fewer people. आप थोड़े लोगों से काम चला लेते हैं because दोनों या तीनों conditions में एक ही जैसा group जो है वो perform कर रहा है. But the problem associated with this kind of design is carryover or practice effect. क्योंकि अगर आपने एक learning strategy आज दी है group को और उसके एक हफ्ते के बाद आप दूसरी learning strategy का असर देखना चाह रहे हैं, तो पहली learning का असर दूसरे पर यकीनी तौर पर होना चाहिए, even though there is a gap of 6-7 days between both conditions. उसके लिए researchers ने different तरीके use किए हैं to reduce these kind of effects. One of them is counterbalancing. यानी आप ये करते हैं कि आधे ग्रुप को पहले एक लर्निंग स्ट्रेटजी दे देते हैं, दूसरे ग्रुप को दूसरी लर्निंग स्ट्रेटजी पहले दे देते हैं, और इस तरीके से हम उनके पहली और दूसरी दफा की एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के इफेक्ट को रूल आउट कर देते हैं. द थर्ड काइंड ऑफ डिजाइन्स आर बेस्ड ऑन एसोसिएशन बिटवीन वेरिएबल्स. This is also a very popular design when you want to see the relationship, association between two or more events. और usually इसमें correlation जो है वो compute किया जाता है. Correlation is a statistical, you can say statistical coefficient, जो कि statistical technique है जिसमें हम relationship और strength of association देखते हैं between different variables. And then there are extensions of these designs. Basically there are 3 designs, लेकिन इनकी extensions भी use होती हैं. For example, one extension of repeated measure या dependent variable design is longitudinal design. In dependent measure, which is also called repeated measure because you are repeatedly measuring one group. Longitudinal design could be called an extension of repeated measure design, लेकिन that is used over a prolonged period of time, or usually that is used with looking at the developmental stages of children. कि आप बच्चों की development देखना चाहते हैं तो आप उनको छोटी उम्र से उनकी observation शुरू करते हैं या उनको test करना शुरू करते हैं, then that is over an extended period of time that research carries on. And then there are mixed designs. Mixed designs are also extensions of these 2 designs. One was independent group design and the other was dependent group design. तो दोनों तरह की conditions उसमें use होती हैं. मिसाल के तौर पर you are testing men and women on their performance by using different learning strategies. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि men and women will serve as independent groups, but at the same time they will be tested at 2 or more conditions with different kind of learning strategies, and you will be looking at the effect of that learning strategies or those learning strategies on their performance, which is dependent variable. Now we'll talk about most commonly used research methods in social psychology. There are 3 commonly used research methods. One is observational research or observational method. Second is correlational research, and usually surveys are used in correlational researches. And the third one is experimental method. So we'll discuss them one by one. Today we'll talk about observational research. What is observational research? Observational research is a scientific method involving systematic, qualitative and or quantitative description of behavior. So usually the purpose of observational research is description. When we say description, तो इससे मुराद ये है कि हम आम तौर पर ऑब्जर्वेशन जब करते हैं तो हमारा जो प्राइमरी पर्पस होता है टू डिस्क्राइब इवेंट्स होते हैं. एंड द सेकंड थिंग दैट इज इन्वॉल्व्ड इन ऑब्जर्वेशनल रिसर्च इज दैट वी सिंपली रिकॉर्ड एंड वी डू नॉट ट्राई टू चेंज द बिहेवियर ऑफ द पीपल whom वी आर ऑब्जर्विंग. क्योंकि ऑब्जर्वेशन का पर्पस ही ये है कि वी शुड ऑब्जर्व एज इट इज नेचुरली हैपनिंग. सो वी रिपोर्ट एंड वी रिकॉर्ड what is actually happening and what we are observing. The third characteristic of observational research is that they are high in validity. How they are high in validity? The definition of validity is that validity is that a thing should be considered valid if it is measuring what it intends to measure. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि अगर ऑब्जर्वेशन को हम वैलिड मेथड कहते हैं तो इसका मतलब ये है कि ऑब्जर्वेशन में जो चीज आप ऑब्जर्व करना चाहते हैं वो पॉसिबिलिटी उसकी ज्यादा होती है, और उसकी पॉसिबिलिटी इसलिए ज्यादा होती है क्योंकि उसमें यू गेट रियल एक्चुअल डेटा. जैसे पहले बात हुई थी कि वन टेक्निक ऑफ डेटा कलेक्शन इज सेल्फ रिपोर्ट्स, एंड सेल्फ रिपोर्ट्स आर क्रिटिसाइज्ड फॉर सेल्फ डिस्क्रिप्शंस ऑफ पीपल बिकॉज it really depends on people, whatever they are telling us, whatever they are reporting. लेकिन observation is direct. You are taking direct sample of behavior. दो terminologies बोली जाती हैं. One is sign and the other is sample. जब आप ये कहते हैं कि this thing is a sign of something else, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि you are reflecting on that sign and you are assuming that this is the sign of something else. For example, अगर कोई शख्स जो है वो चुपचाप बैठा हुआ है, he doesn't look at other people and he doesn't pay attention to other people and उसका सर जो है वो इस तरह झुका के बैठा हुआ है and he doesn't pay attention to the surrounding, आप usually एक कहते हैं कि this is a sign of a bad mood or depression, मामूली सा डिप्रेशन हो चाहे, लेकिन ये एक साइन होगा. और एट द सेम टाइम अगर आप उसको और ऑब्जर्व करें और उसका आप सैंपल ऑफ बिहेवियर लें तो दैट वुड बी अ सैंपल ऑफ बिहेवियर. सिमिलरली ये जो है, ये जो मिसाल थी, दैट विल बी साइन एंड सैंपल बोथ. एक और मिसाल लेते हैं विच विल जस्ट शो साइन ऑफ बिहेवियर. वो ये है कि इफ यू आस्क समबॉडी दैट हाउ आर यू फीलिंग एट द मोमेंट एंड दैट पर्सन विल टेल यू हाउ दैट पर्सन इज फीलिंग. इफ यू आस्क अ पर्सन दैट what you will do in a situation like if there is an accident on a road, would you like to help? ये पहले ही मिसाल है जिस तरह से मैंने दी थी प्रो सोशल बिहेवियर में. और अगर वो शख्स ये कहता है कि yes I will do that or I will not do that, तो ये भी हम एक साइन के तौर पर लेते हैं. that is not exact sample of behavior. वो जो डिप्रेशन की या बैड मूड की मिसाल थी वो साइन भी है और सैंपल ऑफ बिहेवियर भी है. लेकिन अगर आप किसी को एग्जैक्टली देखते हैं कि दैट पर्सन फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम stays quiet, then you are observing that person and on the basis of that observation you can say that you have took one sample of behavior which shows that person was in a bad mood. And on the contrary, in the other example, अगर एक शख्स जो है वो किसी एक्सीडेंट विक्टिम को अपनी कार में डालता है, हॉस्पिटल ले जाना चाहता है और ले जाता है, तो that is also a sample of behavior that that person was really having a helping attitude. So the main characteristic of observation is that you are taking sample of behavior, and that is why it is high in validity because it is measuring what it intends to measure. Fourth thing is that is also important to consider while you are observing that the observational techniques are high in resource consumption. इसका मतलब ये है कि you have to arrange a lot of things while you are observing. आप simply ये नहीं करते कि आप जाते हैं और किसी को observe करना शुरू कर देते हैं. While you are observing someone, तो आपको कुछ operators चाहिए होता है. Maybe you need video cameras, you need some audio recorders, you need some other kind of instruments, और उसके लिए बहुत सारा एक procedure adopt करना पड़ता है. Sometime it is not feasible to observe somebody. There could be some restrictions. So there is quite a lot of precautions are involved, then resources are involved, and then a lot of time is required. कि आप observation हर वक्त नहीं कर सकते. You have to plan it. कि observation जो है वो आप किस time करना चाहते हैं. You want to observe let's say naughty behavior of a child. ये एक और बात है. How do you define naughty? We will discuss that later. लेकिन अगर आपने ये देखना है कि naughty behavior of a child, where you want to observe that in classroom or at home, at playground, in the evening, morning. So you have to define that and you have to look for that particular moment. So you need a lot of considerations and resources also while you plan to observe somebody. There are three essentials of observation. According to Skinner, we have to do functional analysis while we are observing someone. And what is meant by functional analysis? Actually, functional analysis has three components. One is antecedent, the other is behavior, and the third one is consequences. इसको एक मिसाल के जरिए वाज़े करते हैं कि अगर आप एक बच्चे को ऑब्जर्व करना चाहते हैं and the parents come to you that the child has tantrums and you want to observe the tantrums of the child, so you would look at the three conditions that are associated with that tantrum, this tantrum behavior of a child. First one is antecedent. Okay, what happened when the child showing tantrums to the mother, to parent, at home or wherever? So you would look at the conditions that was the context in which those tantrums occurred. For example, the child came from school and you as a participant observer or maybe as a hidden observer present at home, and the child came from home और फिर क्या हुआ कि उसने क्या आते ही tantrums दिखाने शुरू कर दिए. Or maybe you would observe that he came to mother and mother was busy, so she did not pay attention to him. और उसके जवाब में जो है उसने क्या किया कि he hit his younger sister. And when he hit his younger sister and that is the behavior, then mother paid attention. और attention जरूरी नहीं है कि वो अच्छी attention ही हो. Obviously in that case it cannot be a good attention और reinforcement और praise नहीं हो सकती, बल्कि maybe कि she would be angry on the child जिसको आप observe कर रहे हैं. So that was consequence, but in another way you could say that psychologically that child got attention of mother which he initially was not getting. So this is just one example और इसी तरह की और भी examples ली जा सकती हैं जब हम antecedent, behavior और consequence तीनों को देखते हैं. Because according to Skinner, it's not possible that a behavior should occur without any context. So it is important that you look at the context and at the same time consequence of that particular behavior also. Another essential of observation is that you have to make categories of observation. जब आप ये कहते हैं कि हमने tantrums observe करने हैं, ये पिछली example के साथ मैं इसको जोड़ रही हूँ, तो what do we mean by tantrums? आपने research process में पढ़ा कि कोई भी concept जो होता है उसको operationally define करना ज़रूरी होता है so that readers and everybody else who will read that research would understand it. अब tantrum से तो मुख्तलिफ माने लिए जा सकते हैं और हमें जो भी definition या जो भी हम variable use करते हैं उसको हमें पूरे तरीके से define करना होता है. अब ये देखते हैं कि वो कैटेगरीज कौन सी हैं और जो किसी भी जगह यूज की जा सकती हैं और फिर उसको कैसे डिफाइन करते हैं. तो कोई भी बिहेवियर जो है वो जैसे एक टेंट्रम है, दिस इज वन काइंड ऑफ बिहेवियर, लेकिन ये बिहेवियर जो है वो इट्स सेल्फ शोज इन डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज ऑफ बिहेवियर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अब टेंट्रम जो है दैट कुड बी टीजिंग समबॉडी, हिटिंग समबॉडी and getting angry on somebody and so on. एक दो मिसालें और लेते हैं. Look at these essentials of categories. We'll take one example of interpersonal interaction. If you are interested in observing interpersonal interaction, so what is meant by interpersonal interaction? Different people will take different meaning of interpersonal action. The researcher's duty is to define all those categories which could be included under the heading of interpersonal interaction. So what could be these? Like initiating conversation, it is one category of interpersonal interaction. Maintaining conversation, maintaining eye contact and being among, staying among others and so on. Similarly, if you say you want to measure aggression, so what is aggression? Do you mean in your research you are talking about verbal aggression? Are you talking about physical aggression? So physical aggression could be pushing, hitting, kicking, punching, pinching, biting, throwing things, slapping, etc. While verbal aggression could be staring, frowning, cursing, speaking in a threatening way and name calling. So it shows that it is not simply enough that we just describe that we are going to observe this particular behavior. It is very much essential that we also define different categories that could come under one particular behavior. So that अगर कोई और रीडर पढ़ता है या कोई और उसको रिसर्च उस पर फर्दर करना चाहता है तो उन्हें पता हो कि आपने ये ऑब्जर्वेशन इस चीज पर की. दूसरी बात यह है कि जब कोई ऑब्जर्वर ऑब्जर्व करता है तो वो सिंपली एक इंटरपर्सनल इंटरेक्शन को मेजर नहीं कर सकता, ऑब्जर्व भी नहीं कर सकता. जैसे अगर मैंने इंटरपर्सनल इंटरेक्शन को ऑब्जर्व करना है तो हाउ विल आई डू दैट. लेकिन अगर मुझे पता हो कि जो लोग बैठे हुए हैं इफ दे आर लुकिंग एट ईच अदर तो दिस इज इंटरपर्सनल एक्शन, इंटरपर्सनल इंटरेक्शन, तो मैं उसको रेट कर सकूंगी. सिमिलरली अगर मुझे पता हो कि इंटरपर्सनल इंटरेक्शन इज मेंटेनिंग आई कांटेक्ट तो फिर मैं उसको रेट कर सकूंगी. सो द पर्पस ऑफ describing categories under one category of behavior that is being observed is that so that situation is very clear and the person who is observing knows कि उसने क्या ऑब्जर्व करना है. दूसरा फायदा ये है कि आमतौर पर ऑब्जर्वेशन जो है वो एक शख्स नहीं करता. इंटर-रेटर रिलायबिलिटी इन ऑब्जर्वेशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज ऑब्जर्वेशन कैन बी वेरी मच सब्जेक्टिव. तो आमतौर पर 2 या 3 ऑब्जर्वर एक ही बिहेवियर को ऑब्जर्व करते हैं और अगर कैटेगरीज आर वेल डिफाइंड देन इट बिकम्स वेरी इजी फॉर देम टू ऑब्जर्व. आज का लेक्चर जो है हम इस पर खत्म करते हैं. आज के लेक्चर में हमने क्या क्या पढ़ा इसको थोड़ा सा रिव्यू करते हैं दोबारा. सबसे पहले हमने ये देखा कि व्हाट आर सेकंड 2 स्टेप्स इन्वॉल्व्ड इन रिसर्च प्रोसेस एंड दे वर एनालाइजिंग डेटा, conducting statistical analysis and then writing your research report. And we also saw that what are the important elements when you are writing a research article. और उसमें हमने बहुत सारे जो उसके steps हैं या बहुत सारे parts हैं research article के उनको discuss किया. For example, abstract, then introduction, method, results, discussion, conclusion and the other essentials. उसके बाद we talked about 3 research designs. One was description, just describing those designs which are related with the phenomena of just description. The second one was looking at differences and the third one was looking at associations or relationships. And the remaining of the designs were just extension of these 3 basic designs. Finally, we talked about 3 research methods and we did not go into detail of those research methods. We just started talking about observation as a research method and we looked at certain essentials of observation. Next time we will continue talking about observation as a research method and apart from that we will also talk about correlation as correlational technique and method, a very important method that has been used in research on social psychology. Until then, Allah Hafiz.